Hey guys, so welcome back to my channel. Today's video is going to be all about brushes. And I've been getting this request from a lot of you guys that are beginners. So I do want to say that if you have experience with makeup and with brushes, this video really isn't for you. This is for the girls that maybe have no brushes at all, or beginners in the very early stages about getting to know about makeup. And I'm going to let you guys know my top must-have brushes if I lost my whole brush collection and if I was starting from new. The brushes that I think that every girl needs to have. And then I'm also going to be showing you guys how they're used. So first we're going to be going over face brushes, then I'm going to be going over eye brushes, and I have 4 of each kind to show you guys. Okay, so number 1 is foundation brushes. So when you're thinking of foundation brushes, you want to find a brush that has very short, stiff hairs. If you have a foundation brush that has more fluffy, long hairs, it's going to give your foundation more of a sheer finish, and you're also not going to get as much coverage that way. So I'm going to show you guys my favorite foundation brushes. This is the one that I use all the time, and this one is called the Expert Face Brush. I picked this up from Ulta, and it's from Real Techniques by Pixie Woo. Ever since I got this brush, it's the only one that I use for my foundation. I use a liquid foundation and cream foundation most of the time. And this one has a very dense tip, and the hairs are also very short. This really helps to give my foundation a sort of airbrush type of look, very flawless and full coverage. Now if you're not comfortable with a brush like this, I do recommend just a flat regular foundation brush like this one. You do have to be a little bit more careful because you can get a bit more streaks with a flat brush like this. But again, same rules, just make sure that the hairs are on the shorter side and also more dense, and this way you will get the most out of your foundation. Okay, brush number 2 is a powder brush. Now there's 2 types of ways you can go here with powder brushes. If you're trying to get a lot of coverage out of your powder, I recommend using a dense brush like this. This one is by e.l.f. You can find them at Target and it's only $3. I love this brush because I use it on days when I'm only wearing like a powder foundation and I want a lot of coverage from my powder. And it's the same thing, since the brush is on the dense side, it allows the powder to give me a lot more coverage. So sometimes I will just spot apply with this when I want a little bit of extra coverage in certain areas. If I have a breakout or my problem areas such as my cheeks, I will dip this in my powder, and if I need some extra coverage on top of my foundation, I will just go on top of those certain areas. Now if you're the type of girl that has pretty much okay skin and your foundation does the job and you're not looking for more coverage with your powder, I recommend using a fluffy brush like this one. Now if you apply your powder with a fluffy brush, your powder is just going to have a sheer wash to it. It's not going to give you added coverage, and it's also not going to cake up as easy as if you used a brush like this. So they each have their pros and their cons. This one is a F30 brush from Sigma. Very big, very fluffy, and when I just want a sheer wash of powder just to really set my foundation and not give me any added coverage, I reach for a big fluffy brush like this. Brush number 3 is a contour slash blush brush, and it looks like this, and you'll notice that it has an angle to it, and that's very important for when you're applying contour or blush because it really fits into that part of your face. Now when I'm applying blush, okay, it's like impossible to use blush and brush in the same sentence. I'm mixing it up a lot. Anyway, this fits really good on the contour of your face. You'll see that angled part right there. It just really fits well to give a nice contour. And the same thing when you're applying blush, not brush, when you're applying blush, just to work onto the apples of your cheeks and then work its way back. I do tend to go for a softer angled blush brush just because I don't like my contour or my blush to be very intense. So if you have a very hard, dense brush, it's going to give a very intense line of blush and line of contour. So if you go with a more soft, fluffy brush, it's going to make it a lot more sheer and natural looking. Okay, and the last brush that I'm going to tell you guys is a must-have is a skunk brush or a highlight brush or a stippling brush. There's a lot of different names for it, but basically it's just a brush that looks like this. And the reason that I feel like this brush is a must-have is because this right here is like a blending brush. It's very soft and it gives a very sheer application, and basically it just blends everything out like a dream. So whatever I put on my face as far as contour and highlight, I always go over it with this brush, just kind of airbrush and blend everything out. And sometimes I even like to use this brush to apply my powder. If I don't want to use this one and I want even more sheer wash all over, I will use this brush. Oh my god, I'm all over the place today, I cannot speak. I also like to use this to apply I also like to use this to apply blush when I want a very sheer wash of blush or highlight. I just think of this as like my little airbrush, and I love this brush. It's probably my favorite brush out of all of them, and this is the Sigma F50. Now those are the 4 brushes that I think are essential for the face, and now I'm going to show you the 4 essential brushes for the eyes. Okay, so this is the first brush right here, and this is called a flat shader brush. Now this one is by Sigma, and it's called the E55, and there are so many uses for this brush. Number 1 use probably for me is packing color onto my eyelids. When you apply color on your eyelids, you don't want to sweep it on. You really want to pack it on to make sure it lasts all day long and to get the full intensity. So this type of brush is wonderful at picking up color and depositing it on the eye. I use it on my lid, I use it underneath my brow bone, I use it on the inner tear duct. And this one is kind of like a medium size. You can also get a smaller one if you tend to have smaller eyes. If you don't want to go and pick one up by Sigma, I have seen these at Target. I know e.l.f. will have a lot of these brushes that I show you guys, so you don't have to go with the exact recommendations that I'm showing you. I'm really showing you the type of brush, not the brand at all. So a flat shader brush is number 1. Okay, this is brush number 2, and this is called a pencil brush. Now mine happens to be from MAC, and it is the number 210. Now this brush is very dense, and it's also very small and precise. So this is not used to blend at all. This is used just to deposit a strong line of color. And the places that I like to use this brush is in my outer V or in my crease. I also love to use this to smudge eyeliner onto my bottom lash line and also the top. It's a very precise small brush, and it's used for detail work. So number 3 is a stiff dome brush. So this is what it looks like right here. I have a favorite one, which is the MAC 214, but of course I can't find it for this video, but this one will work just as well. And you want to make sure that this brush is a little bit more on the stiff side. This will essentially work as a blending and buffing brush. If it's a good brush, it really will do the work for you. So I like using a brush like this to apply color right into my crease, and you can also use the belly of the brush, which is the bottom of the brush, to apply color right on the lid. So speaking of fluffy brushes, my number 4 last essential brush for the eye is a fluffy dome brush, and you're gonna see when I compare it to this one, it's a lot bigger and a lot more fluffy. And this brush is perfect for blending and blending only. It's a big brush, so you really don't want to apply any color with this. I use this at the end when I'm done with my eyeshadow to go over all the lines. You want to make sure that there's no harsh edges, and you just want to seamlessly airbrush and blend every color into each other. So this big dome brush is my last essential. Okay guys, and those are all my brushes for girls that are just beginning out with a brush collection. I will have a link down below in case you want to buy any of the Sigma brushes that I mentioned. Other than that, you can find a lot of brushes at Walmart, at Target, at drugstores, and there's tons of brush companies online. And yeah, that's pretty much it. So I hope that you guys learned a little something. If there's any questions at all, let me know down below. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you all in my next video. Bye!